Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. And once more I'm back with another video showing my progress, or lack thereof. But I came across this when I was fiddling around with the models in the previous video that I'd used, and I thought, aha, there we go, there's a jolly good way of creating the geometry that we require for our surfaces. And I thought, this has just got to be a step forward. What I've done here, I'll just hide this one, and I will drop this back down to where it originated on the right hand side, when I created the dome on the right hand side, so you may better understand what the heck I'm doing. I'll also give you a hint. It was a sideways or backward step, more of a sideways step. Thinking that there must be a better way, as is this whole exercise, I thought, hang on, what happens if we can align the points on the circumference of the circle here to the other side and have our intersection point of our hexagon line up? Reasonable? Because we're effectively doing that up here, and that's where it started. I'll just get rid of those. I thought, well, we have a line going through here, which is the points on the circumference that divide this into 4, hence the 4V. Why not have a plane in there showing that, and have it rotate until it hits the other intersection points on the circle, like that. That would then give me the point of the leg here for that strut, and well, I think quite reasonable, a rational or elegant way of showing 1, 2, 3 points in line so that they intersect like something like that. We can still see that we're going to have the surfaces of the hexagon quite disparate in shape and angle and lengths, but is that what we have to put up with as we move forward? Because when we look at the photos of other domes, very, very nice domes, we do see this different length here, which I've alluded to. I'm still going to work on the fact that this can be mitigated, but I have as yet not figured out how to do it. I think you might have picked that up already. So, what benefit, if any, is there? Well, actually, we've already covered this, unbeknownst to me. If I hide these again and hide this, the rays that we use here are simply the line that you take from this intersection on the circle to this intersection on the circle, draw it across, halfway across, and you draw out the ray for that. I'll just get rid of this line, it's a bit confusing. In fact, I'll get rid of this triangle because it shouldn't be there. Now those rays are starting to look, in conjunction with these straight lines across the point to point, very similar to our porcupine, or one of. The only difference is we didn't have the, because we're not creating the full dome, we're only interested in the section that would create for the pergola. These two here. This creates the intersection for the hexagon, and this point gives us where our leg, the strut in the bottom section of the pergola, of the hexagon, is generated from, in theory anyway. Which winds up, I'll delete everything. I should delete everything. I will unhide everything, because when we have this plane intersecting the plane here, which we're using to create the flush in plane surface, we get the intersection point. This all seems elegant, if I want, or logical, but it doesn't address the fact that this is a very, very short strut compared to all other struts. So I thought, well, what does it look like when we have the shorter leg? Kind of looks even worse because it's so out of proportion to the rest of the dome. It looks very stumpy in look, and the difference, of course, is exaggerated, and we're not addressing the disparate shapes of these surfaces. So is there a way to make this center come down a little bit, and was that by rotating the circle like I did once before, the 11.3 degrees, which just turns out to be the distance that from the center, if you rotate, well, the center point of this section down flat, it's 11.3 degrees. That's nothing magical in that. It was just an arbitrary point, really, to rotate it around or two. Does that help? And my question comes back, why the hell would I want to do that? Because that's fudging or forcing the idea to meet our goal, and is doing that introducing an illogical or an inconsistency to our logic, for want of a better word. That's a question I have yet to discover, and I will work through that. But I'd created some of these other examples just to try and compare them, but as yet no resolve. And as I said, it's more getting back to the porcupine type approach of the conventional drawing system, which is kind of a good thing, to be fair. So we'll see. This is a progression in some ways. It's sort of the exhausting another avenue, and that in itself can be seen as a positive, that we don't have to contend with this issue. But equally, as we're progressing through, as I said, hopefully progressing, there may be something that pops up and goes, there we go. This may address our question. Do we use, again, a hybrid approach? Because I really do think to achieve a flush in plane look requires a hybrid approach. I've got something else in the back of my mind too, but we need to exhaust this to begin with, this approach, before I go down that path. I've already looked at it, and it has promise, but it still has this disparity of this shape. In fact, it has its own issues, a bit like humans. So I'm going to leave it there. This was more for my edification rather than yours, and I will be back with another confounding video, no doubt, in the very near future. Rightio, see you later.